Hey.
Alright, so this Team USA experience has definitely been an interesting one to start off of the 2021 Olympic year. Team USA has now played 2 exhibition games. They've lost them both, which have both been very surprising outcomes, but after game 1, they lost to Nigeria. You could say that Nigeria just got really hot from 3. Team USA still needed some time to gel together. It was their first time playing together as a group. So people were getting their memes off. It was all a lot of lighthearted fun. Then we go to last night's game where they played Australia and they just straight up got beat. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens from here. I think they play Argentina in a few days. A lot of people are on Coach Pop for doing a pretty terrible job so far. A lot of people are on the players for just playing some pretty terrible basketball so far, and both are justified. But that is not what this video is about. I wanted to get this video out before their first game, but has now bled obviously to today. But anyway, I just thought it was intriguing. Everyone always talks about how Team USA is the time for tampering. You get players from all around the league coming together. They spend a lot of time together. They can hatch some ideas, hatch some plots. We've seen it happen in the past. So I'm going to put my thinking cap on, and no, this is not my thinking cap. I just happened to be wearing a hat because I just woke up a few hours ago. But I'm going to try and predict future team-ups amongst the players that are currently on the 2021 Team USA roster, and I'm not including any of the extra guys who have been additionally added to the roster. I'm only doing the 12 that are on the official Team USA basketball website roster right now. Now, to help us out, I made this fun little Team USA graphic. It basically just, on one end you have the players most likely staying with their current team for the foreseeable future, and on the other side we have the players most likely leaving their team in the foreseeable future. I figured this could give us a little bit of order and a little bit of just ways that we can mix and match these players, because obviously, if a guy isn't going to be leaving his team, then he'll need players to come to him, whereas if a player is likely leaving their current team, then they can kind of just attach themselves to a lot of other teams. So just to run through the graph real quick to give my thoughts on why I put who where. Starting from the right, we have Kevin Love, who, pretty much ever since Cleveland has gone to their rebuilding state, Kevin Love has been unhappy. He's missed a whole lot of games as well, and probably for reasons other than just a basic injury. Plus, we've already gotten a whole lot of rumors that he is likely to be going to a different team, which we'll be getting into later. But I feel pretty confident saying Kevin Love is the most likely player on the team to be leaving his NBA team. And next we have Bradley Beal, who currently things are actually looking pretty good in Washington. They just made the playoffs. Although they were an 8 seed, they were on the up and up. They were missing Thomas Bryant for the whole year. They could definitely go out and maybe sign someone else in free agency to add a little bit of boost to their team. But at the end of the day, Bradley Beal has 1 more year left on his deal before a player option, and just based on the fact that Washington's future is still a little bit muddy compared to a lot of other teams, I would not be at all surprised if Bradley Beal leaves them for a better situation. I know there's been a ton of rumors flying over the past couple of years as well, labeling Brad Beal as one of the most prized free agents that could potentially be happening in this 2022 free agency class. So for all those reasons, he finds himself next to Kevin Love on the graph. Damian Lillard is another star player who has had plenty of rumors surrounding his potential leave from Portland. His situation is a little bit different because he still has 4 years left on his contract with no player option at any point, so it will most likely have to be a trade. And just because Damian Lillard is that good of a player, it's probably going to take a pretty hefty offer to get him out of Portland, which a lot of teams either just simply don't have or they don't feel okay with giving up. But with that being said, there has been a whole lot of fire out in Portland, so it's kind of 50-50 at this point, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Dame ends up leaving. And Zach LaVine is a little bit of a wild card. While I don't necessarily think he's unhappy in Chicago, I don't think Chicago's future is necessarily too bright compared to some other teams around the league. I have a pretty interesting theory on what might happen with Zach LaVine later. Most likely it's not going to happen, but again, he's kind of in that 50-50 range where I wouldn't be surprised either way. And then as we get closer to the left side of the graph, that whole group of players is pretty much just either, they're younger guys who just signed big contracts and are the cornerstone of their current franchise. So for those reasons, they're most likely not leaving. The guys like Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, whose team is currently in the finals. We have Bam Adebayo falls under that. Then we have some older guys who, for similar reasons, are on pretty big contracts and either are currently in or have been in the NBA Finals with their team at some point. just making it seem like they probably will not be leaving until, the very end of their careers, where they don't really matter as much as a player. But those are the guys like Draymond Green, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. I also threw Jeremy Grant in there because although he's on a slightly smaller contract that only has 2 years left, he chose Detroit for a reason. Most people don't go out of their way to choose Detroit. He seems pretty happy there, so I don't really see a situation in which he leaves. And then KD, he's just kind of a wild card. The fact that Brooklyn didn't win a ring this year, pretty much to me, it seems pretty locked up that he will be signing at least another, 1-and-1 deal with Brooklyn, because even if they win a ring next year, I think most of the big three, probably all the big three, will re-sign and go for another run or two. But at the end of the day, it's Kevin Durant. Who knows? He could up and leave and go join some other powerhouse team at the end of the day if he really wanted to. But now that we have that out of the way, I want to go over some of the scenarios that I think could happen, might happen, probably won't happen. But I have ordered them in order of most likely to happen to least likely to happen. So we're going to start with the stuff that I'm pretty confident in saying, and then we'll get to some of the more long shot stuff that I had fun just imagining in my head. So there's only one team up that I am pretty confident in saying will happen, and that is Kevin Durant and Kevin Love. The rumors pretty much started firing as soon as Team USA got together for their first mini camp or practices, whatever it was. But Kevin Love, like I said earlier in this video, he's been pretty unhappy in Cleveland for quite a few years now. There's already been multiple reports saying that he is favoring the Brooklyn Nets as a potential destination. But since Kevin Love still has 2 years left on his deal, it's either going to have to be some sort of trade or there could potentially be a buyout of some sorts. I'm not really too sure how buyouts work with multiple years left on deals, but I'd imagine it could happen. Either way, the rumors have been there. Both parties seem pretty intrigued by this happening. Brooklyn needs their washed up veteran bigs, and they but yeah, K-Love to Brooklyn honestly just kind of seems like it's a matter of when, not if. Moving on to the next category, also only one team up here, although I guess you'd call it two, but you'll see why in a second. These are the wouldn't be surprised at all if it happens. And the only one that fits into this category is Bradley Beal joining either Jason Tatum on the Celtics or Bam Adebayo on the Miami Heat. Now, I say both these teams because both the Heat and Celtics had an amazing 2020 season, followed it up with a pretty abysmal 2021 season, but even as it still stands, both the teams are pretty much one top 25 player addition away from becoming legit finals contenders. It's been known that Bradley Beal has been on the Miami Heat radar for quite a few years now, ever since the rumors started before Bradley Beal even signed his latest extension, and it's been the same thing for the Celtics. We've all heard the story countless times now about how Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum go way back to the early childhood days in St. Louis, how Bradley Beal was essentially the babysitter for Jason Tatum for most of his youth. So there's plenty of intrigue for both destinations for Bradley Beal. Again, he's going to be a free agent, assuming that he declines his player option after next season, and both teams will most likely have the cap space to go out and get him. It'll be a matter of where Bradley Beal wants to go at that point. And now I wanted to get into the last category, which is the long shots category. The first one I have here is a pretty recent rumor actually, and it's something that I might make a more in-depth video about later, either today or tomorrow. But pretty much there was this rumor that came out of nowhere saying that the Warriors are interested in trying to conjure up a trade for Damian Lillard. Meaning that, for the sake of the video, it would be Damian Lillard teaming up with Draymond Green, even though it'd more realistically be seen as Damian Lillard teaming up with Steph Curry. But again, Team USA video, Draymond Green's here, Steph Curry isn't. Now, just right off the bat, I'm not even quite sure what a lineup would look like. I mean, obviously it'd be Steph, Dame, Clay, Dre, and then probably like Kevon Looney or something like that. You got Kelly Oubre off the bench, and I need a little bit more time to think about what that lineup would be like in the NBA, because it seems like something ripped straight out of like a 2K franchise rebuild thing. I don't know. I think people would overrate it, but it'd definitely be a fun, interesting lineup. The reason that I am taking it at least a little bit serious is because the Warriors, I think, would have the best package to offer up for Dame. Obviously teams might have better assets, but would they be willing to give up those assets? I'm not sure. The Warriors, on the other hand, though, could easily send James Wiseman, Andrew Wiggins with the 7th and 14th pick in this upcoming draft that's happening in a few weeks, And like I said, I don't think many other teams would be willing to match this big of an offer for Dame. But the question also arises, is that even enough for Dame Lillard in as a sense of a package? We've seen in recent years that players like James Harden and Paul George have gotten absolutely insane hauls for their talent, and even though Dame Lillard is up there in age, he still has 4 years left on his contract. He's still a superstar MVP caliber player. But if you are the Portland Trailblazers, you get a pretty solid player in Andrew Wiggins. You get James Wiseman, who again had a pretty awful rookie season, but is still a very, very high potential player. And you also get 2 lottery picks in what is set up to be a pretty stacked draft class. So although it seems like a very unserious deal, I think there is some legitimacy to it. And then the other long shot idea of a team up that I had involves Zach LaVine and Jeremy Grant. Now, I actually haven't seen any legitimate rumors, at least that I've seen, about this potential team up. This is just something that I kind of thought up in my head. Also, if you go back and watch my recent video where I talk about the Detroit Pistons, I kind of highlight this similar idea in that video at the end as well. So for next season, the Pistons still have to pay Blake Griffin like $30 million, which, they bought him out, they have to pay it at some point, and they're trying to just get it done in one season rather than stretch it out, which means that after the season, for the 2022 offseason and free agency class, they're going to have a good amount of money to play with. And while it'd be awesome if they could land one of the big free agents that could potentially opt out of a player option during the 2022 free agency, I think it might be a bit more likely if they go for more of like a mid-tier, still all-star level guy, someone like Zach LaVine. His deal will be up, and he could potentially see that Detroit just simply has a brighter future than Chicago at that current point. That's what it's at least looking at right now. So maybe they're able to pry Zach LaVine away, maybe they offer him a max contract. Zach LaVine is a good scorer and a rising defender who I think could fit pretty well in a lineup surrounded by Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart. Not to mention, Zach LaVine could then be used as a sort of stepping stone as a, again, a mid-tier all-star level free agent that could then lead to a bigger signing that could lead to a sort of big 3 to form out of, whoever's left of Zach LaVine, Jeremy Grant, Cade Cunningham, and another all-star. But even if they don't land anyone else, a big 3 of LaVine, Jeremy Grant, and Cade Cunningham, assuming that he is going to hit his potential at some point, could still be a pretty deadly trio in the NBA. And with the fact that the Pistons are also starting to hit on a lot of draft picks, it's likely that they're going to have a good amount of supporting talent to support that potential big 3. All in all, I just think it's a fun idea. I doubt, again, it's a long shot. I doubt it happens at all, like probably less than 1% chance it does happen. But again, we're having fun here, coming up with ideas. But yeah, overall, at the end of the day, Team USA, it's fun to think about the future of these players, but we're living in the present. We always gotta live in the present, and they gotta get some wins. They're disappointing the entire country right now because we gotta go out and beat some of these teams.